Welcome to session 4. In session 4 we're going to talk about step 3 in the perfect perks method, and that is discover your fear factors. First, I'm going to start by taking a look at the homework we had. In that homework, remember, we were going to look at what is the very first event in which we make that decision about ourselves and who we are, in such a way that today we have the breakdown that we have. And I started looking at myself, and what I discovered is unbelievable. Remember, the breakdown I was working on is not being enough of a contribution to the world, and that only came up in the commitment of I want to contribute to people. I want to mean something to the people around me. I want to make sure that their lives are being touched by who I am in the world. And I went and I have inquired what was the first event. It wasn't easy. I looked at my breakdown a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and finally I have discovered the main event. And here it goes. I was about 6 years old. I didn't know how to read much. I just started. I was in the 2nd grade, I think. Anyhow, I'm 6 years old, and I find myself being kneeled down on walnut shells in the corner of the kitchen. My grandmother is punishing me again for the 10th time this month for being late when I come back home from playing with the kids around the building, and from stealing money from the pocket of a coat that my mom used to wear. My eyes are all in tears, my nails are all itchy, and I didn't know how to read the clock yet, so my grandma told me there's another 20 minutes to go. Well, the 20 minutes was over, and my grandma takes me and she says, "You're gonna write a declaration by dictation." So she sits me down at the table, gives me a pen and paper, and I start writing down whatever she says. And she said, "I, Marius, thief and liar, promise that I will never ever be late again, and I will not take what's not mine." You know, just having tears in my eyes. I couldn't even see the paper, but I felt the tears falling on my hands. I would write on paper, "I, Marius, thief and liar, promise." Just wrote down everything the way she said it. And then suddenly, in the middle of that writing, I decide about myself that I actually am that thief and liar, and I'm not worth to be loved, and I'm not worth the attention or the respect of other people. Pretty much, I have decided that I'm worthless. You know, I cannot add anything. I have to take from people. That was a disaster in my life. That decision, now that I discovered it, was disastrous for my life, because I would never have enough of being helpful, never have enough of supporting people, and never ever, no matter what, have enough of being honest. When I have discovered this, guess what? I called my mom, and I talked to her. I said, "Mom, remember, you know, I was 6 years old and I stole money from your pocket, and it was about 50 pence or so." And she was like, "You didn't." It's like, "Mom, come on, forgive me." She was like, "No, that's not it. It's not about that. You know, I used to work 12 hours a day at that time. By the time I come home from work, you'd be already sleeping. I didn't want to wake you up to give you the sweets I knew you'd like. So what I would do is put money in a coat that I never wear anyway." And I was like, "Mom, are you serious?" So all this time, for the past 30 years, I thought I was a thief and a liar, and you were actually putting that money in purpose in that coat. She's like, "Yep, just for you to buy whatever you want, whenever you want." You did not steal, my boy. It was always there for you. Imagine all the values, all the promises, all the declarations that I made up in that moment. They just dropped dead in a split second. And I have realized that I was being so hard on myself, and I was always compensating. Always trying to prove to people that I'm not that thief, and I'm not that liar, and I'm not that person that can't be punctual. I was always in compensating mode, if you remember what we talked about last time. Well, this is what I discovered for myself. So now take a look and see what have you discovered from yourself from the previous session homework. If you didn't do it, please just turn this one off, go do your homework, and come back. And we'll go from there. Otherwise, there's nothing to work on really, because this is the main foundation of the next steps. So, coming back to step 3, which is discover your fear factor, is we're gonna look at discovering the fears, the stops, the blocks that turn you right around from fulfilling your commitments and from reaching your goals. You know, it used to be a time for us for discovery. It used to be a time when we would be free. We would do anything, say anything, play with anyone. Even if we have to criticize someone, we'd just be blunt and say it in a split second, and we wouldn't care what's going on. We wouldn't care who laughs at us. We wouldn't care if we look ridiculous or not. We would just fully self-express. Then something happened. Something happened. One event that stole every single bit of self-expression. That's when we turned that discovery and experience into another thing called the safety zone, the comfort area. There's no specific age when this happens. It's not really. But what's going on is we always discover ourselves after that event that every time we walk outside our comfort zone, we experience the existence of a risk. We see ourselves as being uncomfortable. We feel exposed. We feel threatened. So what really happened at that moment in time is we made up about ourselves that we are in a specific fixed way. We're not that kid that used to do anything, find solution to everything, play around, be, spontaneous. We now define ourselves, I'm like this, and I'm like that, and I'm smart, or I'm stupid, or I'm rich, or I'm poor. Whatever way we made up about it. We keep carrying around that decision with us. So that's exactly what we're going to look into today and discover the source of it. Well, the first time after we make that decision, it's like a new picture goes in that museum of ours with the talking frames. And remember the way I compared memory to a museum full of talking frames, and every single one of those is from the past. And what they do, they tell us what to do. And most of the times, we actually listen to them. We actually believe we are that person. And we stop from acting. We stop generating results. We stop taking risks. So the first time, right after the event, that fresh memory, that fresh picture in the museum is giving us advices. And at the beginning it's pretty shy and pretty distant, and we don't believe much of it. We still have a bit of the freedom left. But then the second, the third, the fourth time, that voice gets more and more comfortable, and we get more and more used to listening to it. And by the next year, or a few years after, we actually believe that is the way we are. I was always afraid. I was always shy. I was always poor. And we declared that event as being who we are. Can you see what that can do to a human being? I definitely can. By looking at the event I just discovered, and I'm sure you see it by looking at who you used to be before what happened to you, what you declare yourself to be is really the effects are just amazing, and not in a way that will actually empower me or you or anyone, but in a way where it just become less and less and less as we go through life, until we find ourselves in a box and there's not many options that we have. We're always going to be constrained. And then we notice that that inner conversation that we've been listening to for such a long time, it became the way we relate to ourselves. Even when we describe ourselves to other people, we're gonna tell them, hey, my name is Marius, and I'm like this, and I'm like that, and this is me. And then the other person will be like, hi Marius, my name is George, and I'm like this and like that. And in fact, without knowing, we generate our incompletions from the past, and our dramas and our decisions over and over and over, reinforcing a past that is not even there anymore. Well, today we're going to look at a few questions that we can ask ourselves, and this will be your homework for next time. The first question is, how does this event occur to me in such a way that I give up on my goal every time I encounter it? How does it look like for me that every time I'm late somewhere, every time there's a money conversation, or every time I talk to someone, I become a thief and a liar? So take a few notes, write it down. How does this event, the event that generates the breakdown that you have, occur to you in such a way where it really cuts off all your action? And really take a few minutes and write this, and be insightfully straight with yourself. Be blunt, be courageous. Just call it the way it is. Don't try to cover it. Don't try to generalize it. Don't try to minimize it. Just be tough on this one. The second one is, the second question that will help you discover what's going on in this area is, what do you avoid confronting or admitting by turning around away from your goal every time you do it? So what is that one thing that you don't want to deal with, or you don't want to take a look at, or you just want to live it the way it is? And also notice how doing all this will send you further and further away from your goal. And the third question is, what is the worst thing that can happen if you go through the fears and the blocks and the stops that you have? What is the worst thing that can happen? And once you look at this and really look honestly, see how see the illusion of the inner voices and the effect they have upon you and your actions. See that the voices that are telling you do this, don't do that, they don't even exist. They're inside that museum, and they're not around. They're not like this coffee or anything else, the trees, and they're just not there. So I'll give you a few examples of the way I answered to these questions myself. On the first question is, how did this event occur to me in such a way that I give up upon my goal every time it happens, every time I encounter this breakdown? Is the way it occurs to me is, I don't want to be worthless. I don't want to be of no use for people around me. I don't want to be a thief and a liar. That's how it looks like. So everything else I do, it's a compensation to that. Every action I take, it's a compensation of not being whatever I'm running away from being. On the second question, what I answered is, remember the question was, what do I avoid confronting or admitting every time I turn around from my goal? Is, I don't want to confront the fact that I was wrong or I was right when I made that decision. You know, as beings, as human beings, we are designed, our mind is designed to want to be right about everything and about anything. That's our design. And even if we made a decision that was not helpful at the time, we would not admit if our life would depend on it. Even if that means taking on every second of our life and perpetuating it and doing it again and again and again. So what I was avoiding for myself is declaring, okay, I was 6 years old, I made a decision that is not helpful, I'm going to stop doing it right now. Another thing I have avoided is, okay, that was what my grandma was thinking about me by punishing me like that, and what I avoid is and declaring that I am not responsible for what she says. But you see how at the moment I assume full responsibility for what she said, and I declare as being mine. Okay, she said I'm a thief and a liar, guess what? I am a thief and a liar. That was my decision. But can you see how making her words be my words left me as a victim? Left me in a place where new actions were not possible for me? That's exactly what happened. For years, I've been acting as a victim. As a person who, oh, I cannot be a contribution. Oh, that's just who I am, and I'll do my best, but you know, my self-expression was locked out. My power was missing. Not even talking about being able to decide or take new actions. And on the third question, what is the worst thing that can happen if you go through the fears and blocks? Well, the worst thing that can happen is prove to myself that I was wrong about being right. I mean, I wanted to be right about not being a contribution, which is the way we're designed. If I would go through my fears, I would demonstrate myself, okay, I was wrong about not being able to be a contribution, so the worst that can happen is that I will generate an instant breakthrough in becoming who I wanted to be and generate my freedom in a place where freedom was not possible. So this is about it for this session, for session number 4. Take a look, but really take a look at what goes on with that event in your life where you gave up on your freedom and where you made the decision of being whatever you wanted, whatever you decided to be, because it's not really like you chose. And answer to those 3 questions, and I'll see you next time in section 5. In session 5, where we're really gonna take a look at what's possible in that area. Enjoy your evening. See you next time. Bye bye.